rep your third favourite trail and ultramarathon podcast while keeping cool and breezy in a DCR technical trucker hat, pleasing Woodland Vista, and one size fits most. Out now for $59.99 plus postage and packaging with a discount for DCR Aid Station paid subscribers. You'll find the code in the newsletter available from the Dirt Church Radio website, www.dirtchurchradio.com.
It actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does look pretty good. It looks very good, actually.
It does.
I'm stoked with it. And they're flying out the door, and lots and lots of people.
Limited supply.
Limited supply. And the people who've bought them love them, so get your mitts on one.
And they're off. Here we go.
Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe. Whether you're out heading, climbing, paddling, tramping, running adventures, bike packing, look no further than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise. Head to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham, Ōtautahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz.
Like Further Faster, they're in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to Further Faster now.
Oh, Further Faster, they're in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to Further Faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
Episode 289 of the Dirt Church Running Podcast. Dirt Church Radio Running Podcast. I'm Matt Raymond.
And I am Eugene Bingham. Tēnā koutou katoa. No mai, hoki mai. We remember who we are, I think. I think we do. Yeah, that's right. It's fair enough because there's been a lot going on.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah,
there's been a lot going on in my head.
Yes, literally.
Absolutely. I'm coming through the other side.
Yes.
Of a head injury. And it sounds really kind of odd to say that. Something that felt at the time quite innocuous, which has had sort of long-lasting effects. But I'm getting there. But if this is a minor head injury, I'd hate to see what a major one is.
Yeah. You've certainly, I was going to say, taken a knock.
Yeah, no,
but,
I have.
You have, it's impacted your work and
yep.
Life in general, and
Absolutely.
The amount of times that I've messaged you and said, "How you going?" You've said, "I'm nauseous." It's like, wow, it's not fun, is it?
No, it's not fun at all. And and perfectly, frankly, aware that with my access and health literacy, that I'm getting the best care and under a team and doing all that sort of stuff, and that I have it very, very lightly. So, plodding along.
And you've still been able to run, you were saying the other day.
So I'm cleared to run. That's the thing. I can't think very well. But I was talking to the people and by people I mean sports physicians and occupational therapists, and have been cleared from the, if I can handle it. They talk about sort of getting heart rate up, and if my heart rate gets up and I'm symptomatic, then that's a problem. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm certainly not sending it on any trails or anything, but I am. It's ironically, it's one of the only times I don't feel seasick when I'm running. So there we go.
That's so good. So good.
Yeah, it is a silver lining. I mean, and on silver linings and running or not running, as it were. How are you going, man?
Yeah, not so silvery linings.
It's a small silver lining.
So I have started some treatment to rehab my Achilles with a view to starting some running again. We'll see what that looks like. Calf raises. Calf raises are us.
How many are you doing a day?
All day, every day. I'm doing them now. Yeah.
The David Goggins of calf raises.
That's right. That's right. All I'm going to be is an enormous set of calves. That's it.
I wonder what the world record for calf raises is. I might Google that after this.
Yeah, I don't think I need to be doing that. But yeah, so that's me, and stretching and stuff. So that's where we are at the moment. Hopefully
that must be so frustrating.
Yeah, just a little bit.
going to sugarcoat that.
No.
And
No.
and it's slight progress. So
Yeah. So
more
not quite sure
how
what the
to use that.
destination is, but it is progress towards something. So we'll see. But last week I had a cold, so I didn't go swimming. So I've just been doing exercises in the garage. There we go.
I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Hard news out of the South Island.
Yes. Big news. So the Wilds, and imagine that meeting where they made that call, to pull the pin. For those of you who haven't heard, they've pulled the pin on the Wild for this year. Just saying it's been too much, and not getting the number of entrants that they require to be able to put it on safely and all those sorts of things. So they've made the call to call it off for this year, which will be heartbreaking for lots of people, on the organising side, but also people who are looking forward to running it. So karaha, everyone involved.
Yeah, and this is the thing too. And I'm hopeful that there's a lack of sort of schadenfreude around that. This is a thing that people, and it's not. There's a big committee behind it. There's a trust. People, we know that with the Wild, it was the first year. There was the whole fiasco with the company that was running it that went bust. They ran it successfully last year. So yeah, our hearts go out to anyone who has to make that call. I guess it's indicative of both the sort of the calendar that weekend and the harsh economic realities I guess we're facing, right?
Absolutely.
These things cost money and people are struggling.
Absolutely. Hey, a couple of amazing performances in Europe to note. So in the extremely competitive Sierra Zinal mountain race in Switzerland, 31 Ks with 2,200 metres of vertical gain. Let those numbers sink in. Caitlin Fielder, our multiple guest on DCR and a DCR favourite, finished 10th, which she was absolutely stoked with, especially after saying in a race preview that it wasn't the kind of race for her, and it was mostly uphill, and she didn't really like uphills. She liked downhills, so she'd kind of sworn off it. But she lined up and came away with 10th, which she was stoked with. So the Sierra Zinal's biggest story this year surrounded the women's winner, and I'm taking this from I Run Far, Joylene Nago, of Kenya, who it was her first ever trail race. It was her first recorded race since running in school. She's given birth to 2 children and then lost 30 kilograms and decided to run again. And this was her debut in the world of trail running. And not only did she win, but she went and smacked down. So she won by 8 minutes, which in the context of Sierra Zinal is huge. The men's winning margin was 2 seconds. And that was a sprint finish. Have a look at the video if you can find it. Some bloke called Killian Jornet got there. But amazing performance. That race just punches above its weight, and not above its weight. It is the heavyweight champion of the world in terms of your kind of knockdown, drag out, 31K. And Killian Jornet, I mean, you saw. If anyone saw Anton Krupicka's Instagram post on it, and there was a photo of Killian hugging the second place finisher, and it just said, "This effing guy." He just continues to be right up there, like the bell curve is him coming down the other side. We haven't seen it yet, really. No, that's right. And we've all known that he's got the endurance legs, obviously, but he laid it down in that sprint finish. Yeah, it was a ding dong. So amazing.
Woo.
Yeah.
Little guy by the name of David Houndschmidt set a record in the Swiss Alps 150K race, 5 hours, 38 minutes and 52 seconds. Flying doctor, getting around in Europe. That's so cool to see. And check out his Substack.
Yeah, he's
really
keeping it updated. Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to mention too, I've been enjoying the Olympics, of course, and amazing performances from the New Zealand athletes. And the finish of the women's marathon featured Ruth Croft-esque scenes of elbows flying in the finishing straight. Yeah, about 200 metres to go, the elbows came out.
I must admit, I haven't, with my schedule and aversion to the screen medium, haven't been keeping my eye that much on the Olympics. But shout out to Ray Gunn.
Oh, yeah. I'll leave that one there.
No, but you gotta love it, right? Like, run what you brung and go full send. Like,
yeah.
The annals of it. Was it Eddie the Eagle, the Eel? What was the Eel?
Can't remember.
The dude from the
Eric.
Eric the Eel and Ray Gunn, the holy trinity of
Yeah. I'll celebrate Sfia Hassan, who in that women's marathon race won the gold, having won bronze in the 5 and 10K. So incredible. Yeah. Right, you caught up with someone this week, Matt. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, talk about interesting conversations with interesting runners. Lee Grabarek, who's been someone who we've both known for a while, and someone who was a regular trail running scene person in Auckland, moved to Ōtautahi, Christchurch, and had, where I came across some of the writing that they'd done was about when they'd attended what was called Out Trails in the US, which is a camp, a getaway for LGBTQI plus people, trans people, queer people, run by Ryan Montgomery, who we've had on the show before. And Lee, who his pronouns are they, them, and identifies as non-binary, signed up for this, got a scholarship and went, and has written some other amazing articles. And so we had a good old chat about being first and foremost a runner and their desire to just basically send it and run really competitively, and then their experience as a trans person in the space. And it is a hell of a conversation, and one that I heartily enjoyed. And it was cool to catch up with Lee, and they're from sort of their native Connecticut, and their upbringing. It was just super, super interesting. So yeah, it was a good old chat, which I'm really stoked to bring you. Greatest run ever, brought to you by Squad Run. Give their 4-week special coaching trial a go. You can find the link on the website, which is www.dirtchurchradio.com. Now, this is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. Might just be a run around the block. Something that's sung to you for some reason. Send it in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. This is from James Bodycoat. Long-time Squatty member here, just shared the story on a Squatty post, and it was suggested I share it with you guys where you listen to your Squatty mates. My best runs ever. I think mine might actually be 2 different training runs where stuff just felt together unplanned. You know, the ones where you just head out the door and a K or so in, you realize, holy moly, I'm on here. Best go with it, because you never know when you'll feel this way again. My greatest run ever would be a half at my local oval, where I set out for a set time but quickly realized I was on way ahead of that target and just ended up holding on for dear life and absolutely smashed my 10, 15 and half marathon PB by a lot. Another one was on a hill segment we have locally. There's an 8K round trip, which is 4K there, 4K back, and has 230 meters of vert, which is nothing to sneeze at. Anyway, about a K in, I realized I was going a lot quicker than normal, but I felt at ease, so I went with it and treated myself. Ended up smashing my PB there and took a crown we all thought locally was unobtainable. In an event, my best would I think would be this SCC, the last time I did it back in 2021. Went off the back, not much running through the month leading in due to a dicey knee. My wife and I fully expected at best I'd reach the halfway point and need to quit, and I did the first leg super cautiously and was 35 minutes slower on leg 1 than the year before. Anyway, got to the end of leg 2 and felt fine, so kept going, and not only reeled back in that 35 minutes slower first leg, but ended up another 45 minutes ahead overall compared to my previous year for an 80-minute turnaround from the end of leg 1 onwards. There's a common theme there, which is when you're on, you're on.
Absolutely. That is absolutely, isn't it? Those beautiful moments when you do feel it and you just got to go with it, don't you? Because you don't know when they're going to strike again. Awesome, James. Thank you so much. The locally unobtainable, or so you think, crown. We've all got those, haven't we? Yeah. So good on you for cracking that. Anyway, thank you, James. have a read of James's greatest runs ever on the website, www.dirtchurchradio.com, and then send us your one into us, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. Right.
All right, on with our chat with Lee Grabarek. Enjoy. Lee Grabarek, welcome to Dirt Church Radio. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm doing pretty good. It was actually a beautiful day in Ōtautahi, so I got out for a nice long run and just feeling good. Got to catch up with some friends. It's just been a good day.
Health, immunity, purple pills, winter months, sore bodies, recovery needs. Currents can help with all of that. We've been on the Purple Buzz for a long time. We reject the industrial blackcurrant complex, currents.co.nz for all the goodness. Eugene, what do you have to say?
I think it's all about the science. Look at the science. Read the papers. Go to the website, currents.co.nz. Have yourself a look at what the researchers have had to say about the mighty benefits of the mighty blackcurrant pills.
Do you have a local Ōtautahi loop?
Yeah. So I am super lucky where I live on Clifton Hill. So for those who aren't familiar with Ōtautahi, it's on the Port Hills. So within like a 4-kilometer climb, I'm on the top of Mount Pleasant, which is the highest peak on the Port Hills. So and then I usually normally will cut left and head out to Godley Head, and that will bring me back to my house, which is like a 20-kilometer loop. But it's breathtaking. So that's my regular weekend route. Yeah.
I mean, you can't be mad at that.
No.
I was struck by the last time I had maybe at least a 10-year gap between going to Christchurch.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just struck by, half the city's dead flat, but I'd never been to the hilly part before. And it's like flat and then gets hilly really quickly. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I did. I did like 1,000 meters of climbing today. So it just shows you Christchurch is flat, but if you want hills, you'll find them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do note. I mean, I'm not a linguist by any stretch of the imagination. That your accent isn't a classic South Island one, nor is it a classic Auckland one. Lee, where are you from?
Yeah, no, you're right. Your linguistic skills are correct. So I'm originally from the U.S. I'm from a tiny state on the East Coast, Connecticut, which is where I lived until I was 19. I did all of about 20. I did my high school and my undergrad in the U.S. and then moved over here to be with my ex, who's Kiwi. And then, the rest is history. I lived in Tamaki Makaurau for like 9.5 years. And I've been down here for about 1.5 years now, which has been such a fun journey of exploring the South Island. And yeah, it's been good.
That's cool. And did you like running and trail running? It's such a niche thing, especially in such a small community like, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Yeah. Was it your first taste of the sport when you got here, or were you doing that pre coming to New Zealand?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I did quite a bit of trail running in my undergrad. So I was kind of a similar situation, actually, where I did my undergrad next to some really amazing hills. And it wasn't really, it wasn't like a thing. This was like 2012, 2013, where, trail running was a thing, but I wasn't calling it trail running, where I'd go off for 2 hours and run in the woods and then come back. And I didn't really see any other people doing that. But I was in road shoes. I got a pair of I think one of Adidas's first Terex shoes, and I trashed those things. I wore them for way too long. But I did. So my trail running started in undergrad, and when I moved over here, it was a total playground. Especially because I had first moved over before the Rahui and the Ōtautahi, so I did a bit more. But yeah, so I guess I've been trail running since I was like 19, 20. Yeah.
It's amazing that you said I did it in road shoes. It's like, yeah, you can. People did,
Yeah.
If you've ever, it's the classic thing, isn't it? The sort of the Gaudy Ainsley with the denim cutoffs, a metal drink bottle and a Snickers bar. Like that's the It's funny how niche it's become now. Hey, and you can do everything, but one of the it almost feels like you're transgressing slightly, doesn't it? If you go out for a trail run in road shoes.
Oh, 100%.
It's like a forbidden pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm feeling a bit alty, maybe I'll go out in my road shoes and plow through the Port Hills. It's true though. I work 2 days a week at Frontrunner Colombo, and it's just really interesting to hear how niche like the trail shoes and the trail running world has got. Like you can get literally, like we have shoes now that are designed almost for specific races, like when I see a shoe, I'm like, oh, the Hoka Tecton, clearly designed for Western states. So it's incredibly niche now. And to have a Snickers bar on a run instead of a Mortein gel is really counterculture. Yeah.
Just sprinkle a little bit of baking soda on the top of it, just to, keep up with the current, knowledge. I mean, it's how the gravel shoe. I mean, you're a runner. This is a running podcast. We'll smash into it.
Yeah.
I mean, are you selling? What are we? 18 months behind the trend, like the gravel shoe thing.
Shoes.
That's a thing too. It's not a trail shoe. It's not a road shoe. It's a gravel shoe.
Yeah, the door to trail gravel shoe. We sell a lot of those. I think especially down here because it's pretty easy access. For a lot of people, especially if they live on the base of the Port Hills, where they do want something like door to trail. Creamy gravel trail shoe. I was out in my creamy gravel trail shoes today. Probably wasn't the best pick, but we sell those for sure, and they're really popular. And I think that the running shoe world has really hit a good market with that. Just like gravel bikes, right? People probably are mostly gonna run on them on the road, but it's still making the money.
Look, I won't. I'll put my hand up. I went for a long run in my challenges today,
nice, there you go.
And I do. I run from home to the trails, and it's perfect. It's perfect. Excuse me.
You're good.
Sorry. High production values. I just knocked over my water bottle on the floor there. So, I mean, what got you interested in running? What was it like? Or if you want to, what was it during your undergrad year that, were you a sporty kid growing up?
Yeah.
Or was it something that kind of, what was your first sort of, what sparked these kind of sojourns into the woods?
I was a super outdoorsy kid. My dad, I'll give him full credit for this. My dad had me outside as much as humanly possible. He's like, if you think of like the true American outdoorsman, it's him. Like he does archery, he does like fly fishing, ice fishing, skiing, like he does it all. And I did all of that alongside of him as a kid. So I got a lot of exposure to being outside, and that's where I always had the most fun. But it's a really roundabout way of getting into running. But I was running like middle school, intermediate age. I was a middle distance runner, and I did the 800, and I was pretty good at it. But the reason I started running then was I had this really far-fetched dream as a kid that I was going to be a professional downhill skier. I watched downhill skiing so much as a kid, and I read in a magazine that my dad had, like a ski magazine, that the best training for off-season skiing is cycling. But because my parents weren't going to let me like go off on these like huge 3-hour bike rides, and I didn't have the money to buy a road bike, I was like, okay, I'll just start running. So I just started running instead, thinking that I was going to be a downhill skier. There was no chance. Like the closest mountain was still like 2.5 hours away. But yeah, that's how I started running. And that was when I was like 12 or 13, and I haven't really looked back. Just kept doing it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell us, look, I mean, we should just jump into it. You work and you study in the LGBTQI plus space,
yeah.
right? And I guess this comes to the heart of it. Like we're having this wonderful discussion, and we're chatting about running, and we're chatting about everything, and we last time we saw each other was at the airport, and that was really, really cool. We know each other from Beer Jerk Runner. And you are a person who identifies as non-binary.
Yeah.
And oftentimes in conversations, that's the first thing, or it seems like in podcasts or in the space, that's the first thing that gets brought up, right?
Yeah, 100%. I was actually just reflecting, not even just podcasts, right? But I guess in my work experience world, that's, you introduce yourself by talking about like what pronouns you use, the name you use, and I mean, oftentimes people go into how they identify gender-wise. Like that's not uncommon at all. And I was like, I do always notice. I'm like, we didn't start that way. It's a completely neutral thing, but yeah, it's yeah. Anyways, yeah, you were going somewhere with that, Matt.
I was going somewhere, and it's a really great thing to kind of, when we did the outline of the conversation, I put at the bottom, you want to have an interesting conversation with an interesting runner. So that's why we got you on, because you have an interesting story, you're an interesting person, you've got this. But I feel like there's that well-meaning urge to kind of put so much pressure on that up front that it kind of robs one of the authenticity of the story, like, and how do you balance that? Is that like my kind of middle-aged liberal bias, or is that us just being aware that in the space, this is really like, this is part of the gestalt now, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a tension I feel daily, because I was reflecting on this earlier, and the hard part about this is like, super paradoxically, I don't ever, like, gender means absolutely nothing and everything to me. Like when I'm not in a conversation like this, or if I'm not in a space or with people who might think that my gender is like something really different, or something that challenges the status quo, or just something to articulate, I don't think about my gender. Like that's not something I think about on a minute-to-minute basis. But it's only when I'm in these positions where I'm like, okay, what are your pronouns, where I actually ever think about my gender, which is it's fine and it's helpful, right? Because then we're all on the same page of like what we need out of this, right? Like I need people to use like these pronouns because they feel best for me. And it's helpful for people maybe to know a little bit about my gender identity, or like what names I use. Like that's all really helpful. But I think it does make people quite nervous sometimes when that is articulated so explicitly, because then the spotlight is, okay, I can't mess this up. And if I do, like maybe I'll look like a real transphobic or homophobic person, and that's not me. Or like I just want to make sure that like they're in good hands in this conversation, like they're not going to judge me. And I think that's where it gets tricky, because then the conversation focuses less on the, like, it sometimes can lead into like, I'm going to focus on just not messing this up, rather than like, I want to have a conversation about like the intricacies of being a human in the world. Because that's what we do share, right? So it's really hard. It's a really tricky place to navigate. And I do that too, like in talking with other trans and queer people, like that's something I think about. But at the same time, I'm like, but we shouldn't have to talk about this. Simultaneous tension.
I love that you said that, that's the thing, like and that must be really challenging for some people, because this is such a culture war. It's such a hot button issue for a lot of people, and a lot of people get super challenged by it. The fact that you don't wake up non-binary. You don't wake up in a non-binary way. You wake up the same way that every other human being wakes up.
Yeah.
Or if you're eating a bowl of oatmeal, you're eating a bowl of omiel.
Yeah. If I'm going for a run,
Yeah.
I'm just going for a run. You know, like I'm not thinking about this stuff. I know it might sound really wild, but I really don't. Yeah.
But there is that paradox, right?
Yes.
Like, you spoke about, I read an article that you had written, and you were running with a friend and talking about entering more races. And one of the things that struck me was the phrase, "You should just."
Yeah.
You should just. You should just, which is the same that people say, like, there's a bell curve of you should just. They like, you should just punch that shark on the nose as it's bearing down on you, or you should just grab the pit bull's legs and pull it apart when it's got you by the arm. Yeah. It seems like it comes from a place of something that, say, myself, I've never had to experience that, right? How do you deal with kind of how do you balance you should just in terms of putting yourself out there, or entering races, or this trail space, which is quite heterodox in nature, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a really good question. And it's so interesting that you picked up on that, because clearly the statement made an impact, and I followed through with it. But I think in that piece, I'm talking a bit about like, or maybe I don't, but like context to that is, I hadn't entered into really any races up until a few years ago. And a lot of that was, I didn't know where I fell in terms of categories. And it got more complicated when I started taking testosterone. And then I had top surgery, which then were like indicators where my body is not actually, like, it's not cis female, and it's not. But then I'm like, I sit in this murky zone of being like, I don't identify as a cis male either. So I don't really know where to fall in terms of categories. And I'm also a really competitive person, and I want to do my best. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to train my heart out until I can feel really good about competing with cis men, because I feel like it'd probably be a pretty unsafe thing for me, and I'd probably get a lot of flack if I raced with cis women. That doesn't resonate with me, but racing with cis men resonates slightly more with me. So I guess that's my best option. So yeah, I only started running when I felt a little bit more confident in my running skills, and I felt competitive enough to run. But it's actually an incredibly daunting task. I did this exercise. I talk about it like it was an experiment, but it was actually a genuine curiosity for me, because I was really tired of like looking at races, and then it is a heart-sinking moment, like just a little bit, every time I have to choose like the male category on a race, because I'm like, this doesn't accurately reflect my experience at all. And like, I'm really proud of having navigated my life with the authenticity that I have, and like being true to myself. And I feel like I'm cheating myself by having to assign myself into a male category. And I sent an email out to a few different like race directors, being like probably about 6, and across the country. And because I was like, I want an experience it could be to race in a non-binary category. So I sent that email out, and I only had one race directors, the Ōtautahi folks, so shout out to them if they're listening, but they were the only race that was offering a non-binary category, which was just quite shocking. And I think we're quite behind the times in that regard, where I think the US is actually making a whole lot of progress with that, and we are still behind. And I think for trail races, I don't know, especially like more local stuff, how hard can this really be to have another category created for people? So I guess, yeah, Ōtautahi. If I want to race as a non-binary person, if I want to be true to myself, it's Ōtautahi. And if anything's changed since then, that was a couple years ago. I really encourage you to like reach out to Church Radio, because I would love to know if there's been other categories created since then. It'd be actually really helpful information. But yeah, as it stands, for as far as I know, that's the only race.
Yeah, we'd love to know. Like, race directors get in touch, and Gareth Ōtautahi. I mean, it is truly an urban ultra in that sense. Like, it's just like, that's excellent, and that, I guess, gets into that other paradox, which is something that it's the next thing, is that notion of when people go, and again, it's entirely well-meaning. Oh, it's no big deal about your gender. That's kind of, hey, it's that, how do you hold both things in your head that actually it is a big deal, because it's something that is true to that person and is having, or has the potential to have some quite negative effects on them psychologically, physically, and throughout the course of their lifespan.
Yeah, I think it's that's that again. Yeah, going back to the paradox, like It can actually, like I said, like my heart drops a bit every time I have to do that. And I think I'm a quite like well supported, like I have a really strong sense of myself, and I can't imagine, or somebody who maybe hasn't shared that they're trans, and that can actually be a really scary thing to sign yourself up for a category and then have this risk of being like, what if someone calls me out on this? What if information's like, that can actually be a really scary, serious safety risk for people mentally and even physically sometimes. But I think that it really just, it overlooks, and I think it really cheats trans people of just the resiliency and the strength that it can take to really get to a point where you feel like secure and strong in your gender identity, and then being reduced to only have two options that don't really fit. That's it's pretty heartbreaking. Actually, it's simple, but it's actually really heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple, and it's heartbreaking, and it's something I was talking about it with Rebecca, my wife, when we were running today. We both work in the mental health space, and we both have been doing it for a very long time, and it is a gestalt. The mental health, it keeps up with the gestalt of the gestalt is of the times, right? And we were reflecting that when we started in mental health, 25 years ago, which is frankly terrifying, that it wasn't the experience, or we weren't seeing people come through. It was more sort of it wasn't the gender issues, it was issues of sexuality, and how that now has changed, that, someone's sexuality or someone's sexual orientation, or on whatever spectrum that lands, in lots of ways for lots of communities, is now, it feels more by the by than it was, in terms of sort of driving people to the gates of insanity and death. It's interesting, isn't it, how times have changed. Do you think that there will get to a point where people's expression of their gender will get to that space as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think Gen Z is really getting it right. I work with young people in the mental health world, and it's always super encouraging me. Like they're still really being tried. Like trans young people are still really being tried and hurt by society in a lot of ways. But I think that within circles, they're talking a lot more, and there's a lot more openness and conversation about being trans, and it's not uncommon. Like it's something that I think most kids now, they probably do know a trans kid at their school, or a non-binary kid, and maybe if they don't know that they're trans or non-binary, there probably is kids at their school who are trans and non-binary. So for sure, it will certainly shift. I just wish it wasn't as rocky and turbulent as it has been. But often the most important changes that we see in society have these really rocky, turbulent, often violent roots, because we're challenging power and authority and the way that society has been set up for people. So unfortunately, the people who try to challenge that get a lot of flack. Yeah.
Yeah, so, look, we could be all here all day talking about hegemony.
Yeah. I know, and I love this stuff.
So, well, I mean, and so do I, from the perspective of, like someone who, and I don't say this with any sort of sense of guilt or anything, like, I wear trail shoes because I'm lubed up to slide through life, like I am. And if we give away that little bit of that space at that massive table we seem to all inhabit, when there's a tiny little bit of space for another person, it doesn't affect me. And I wonder about how, and I think it goes deeper about societal, cultural, socio-religious, all of that stuff. I think it's perhaps more fundamental than that. But look, we could be here all night. You've had you've written that you've had a huge 18 months, we could say that, right? Like your life, to quote the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, your life got turned upside down. Lots of changes, and you wrote an article for Free Trails. And what was it like going? You went to Out Trails in the States. What was that process like?
It was honestly one of the most incredible, life-changing experiences I've ever had. And yeah, so like you said, I had a really rough last year and a half. Just if you do have a chance to read the article, it kind of hints a little bit about some of that. But yeah, just a lot of loss and grief and transition in my life. And I was really feeling untethered and, quite frankly, quite depressed. I still had a lot of really wonderful people in my life, and I found a lot of joy where you can't, those two can still simultaneously happen. You can have really joyful moments and still be really sad at the same time. But I had heard about Out Trails the year previous, and I just wasn't in a position to go at the time. And
so what do we back
up?
What
is Out Trails?
Tell us. Yeah, what is Out Trails?
Yeah, so Out Trails is a 4-day running retreat. It's led by Ryan Montgomery, and Addie Bracey helps out with that as well. But it happens in October. I think the time changes slightly, but it's a 4-day retreat for queer, trans, and non-binary folks to just run trails together. We would get up at 7 a.m., eat breakfast together, and then run for 6 hours, and then have meals and hang out at the end of the day. And it's just a chance. It really acknowledges that I think often queer and trans people, I think it's really hard to find running community. There's Out Trails, run groups that happen throughout the year, but still they're few and far between. And there's so many trans and queer people that haven't run with other queer and trans people. And I was one of them, which is really ironic and kind of going back to this paradox, because I work in the rainbow space, right? I've been doing this for almost 8 years, and the majority of my friends are queer and trans people, but I've never run with a queer or trans person up until the Out Trails retreat. So it's kind of a celebration of identity and love of trails, which is, two of my favorite things. So that's a bit about Out Trails. It's happening again. I think applications are closing very soon. But I would highly encourage people. It does cost, and there is a kind of a cost prohibitive factor, I know, for quite a lot of people, but there are scholarships available as well. That's how I got over. And if you're a queer trans runner listening to this podcast, definitely investigate it. If not this year, look into it in the years to come. Yeah. How did it happen?
Yeah, how did that happen? I was just and I guess what I was reflecting on is I was thinking about Beer Jerk Run Club, right? And I believe did we meet at Beer Jerk Run Club, or we probably met in the forest, or we met through mutual friends and we ran. It Beer Jerk Run Club's cool,
super cool,
and inclusive, and again, it's for it's not that space.
Yeah.
And it's cool and comforting. And I was running with Harry and Billy on the weekend, and we're just like, it's so nice to see each other, and it's so nice to kind of fit into that space again. But having that itch that you can't scratch, it must have been super significant to be amongst people. And again, like you said at the start, you got up in the morning, got up in the morning, went running, probably talked about, I don't know, House of Dragons or whatever, and life stuff, and went to bed hungry and tired, or full and tired. There's a normalization of that, right?
Yeah. It's actually really interesting. I actually think that Beer Jerk, I'm just reflecting on this now. Shout out to Beer Jerk Run Club, because I think it really did give me a lot of motivation to be like, because I think that was the closest, right, to like having this experience of running with other trans people. Not that, I mean, there could be trans people in the group. I don't know. I wasn't aware of it. But I think it gave me this reassurance that I really love running with like-minded people. Like I love talking with people there. Like we share a lot of values and ways of seeing the world and how we hope the world would be and operate, not just in the running space, but just generally. But like you said, it was still like this itch I couldn't really scratch. Like I was so close to it. I'm surrounded by really amazing humans, but again, they're not like trans people with a similar maybe experience of having this journey that I've been on. Not that all trans people have the same journey, but there is that kind of shared life experience that I just couldn't really relate to people on a deep level with. But it was kind of this impetus for me to be like, okay, there's still this itch I need to scratch, and I need to find where I can get it itched, which is where Out Trails came in. Yeah.
So how many, what's it look like? How many of you were there? What was the, like you're running for 6-7 hours. Is there anything else going on?
Yeah. Well, it was, so it was so cool because we left from Seattle, and we drove in a shuttle. A lot of us drove up in a shuttle together. So it was kind of like going to summer camp. And we drove up to Mount Colshan, I think is the indigenous name for it. But we stayed at this beautiful lodge. I think there was probably maybe 30 of us from mostly the United States, but it was a couple of people from Canada, one person from the UK, and then myself. And we were in bunk beds, and we like it was really summer camp vibe. And we did a lot of it was really just connecting and sharing stories about, sure, there was some element of being queer or trans people, but a lot of it was just like having a real good laugh and talking about how much we love trail running, and just feeling so lucky and grateful to be in this beautiful space with other really interesting humans. I think that was the vibe. We would plan out our runs together in the evenings and decide which way we wanted to go, help out with like chores and stuff. I think it was a really good balance of structure and being able to connect on a deep level with people.
Something that you'd like something that you'd hope could be replicated in if not Aotearoa, then a little bit closer to home, because this is the thing, right? It's the rock is going to start to roll down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
And access and equity and all that stuff.
Yeah. I always think about it where, you probably see this in your work, Matt, but this whole thing, it's not really a thing. Like, people have been trans since the beginning of time, and queer since the beginning of time. But I think that there's only, as this becomes more normalized, as we were talking about earlier, there's only going to be greater numbers of queer and trans people who feel safe enough to share that part of themselves, and they're going to be looking for spaces to connect with other people who share similar experiences. So this isn't going away. The numbers and the need will only increase. So I think like having these types of things like Out Trails in somewhere in the Pacific, maybe Australia, maybe Aotearoa, but somewhere just a little bit closer. The time is now. I mean, the time was yesterday, but the time is also now. So it would be incredible if anyone has any ideas or like wants to sponsor it, hit me up. But yeah, I would love to see it. We do have trans and non-binary and queer runners in Aotearoa, and it would be cool if we could all meet each other and run. I know some of them, but definitely not all of them.
Cool, let's run it up.
Let's do it. You heard it here first.
Let's get it going.
Yep.
Yeah. How good would that be? I mean, we love a per capita, don't we? Like, we love, like, the Olympics are on at the moment. I mean, and we love, Aotearoa loves a per capita. Yeah. Like, we might not have the most medals, but we have the most medals.
Yeah.
So let's get sporty. I mean, tell me about your running. What are your goals next 12 months?
Yeah, good question.
I mean, you're let's be clear as hell. You're fast as and you are super competitive. So this is the thing, right? Like, you're here to send.
Yeah. I am here to send. Like, yes. Yeah. I didn't used to own that, but I think I'm at a place now where I feel comfortable enough to say that. Like, if I run with you, I'm gonna try to beat you. Yeah.
So to be clear, if you ran with me, you'd beat me.
No. Because we would just like hang out in the woods, so it'd be fine.
Don't pity me. I'm competitive too for an old guy. But no, I get what you say, right? I love it. Like, own it, send it. Yeah. So you're here to send it. If you're racing, you're gonna get into a scrap, and it's gonna be cool. So I mean, what's the thing for the next 12 months?
I mean, body willing, I am planning on running Crater Rim, which I think would be really fun because it's my backyard and I run on it all the time, but I've never really done like best effort competitive running of the Port Hills. So that'll be really fun to do. But honestly, aside from that, Matt, I think having had a rough year, like couple years with injury and stuff, I think I'm still like learning to trust my body a little bit. But something on the other side of this is I'm a broke ass student. Being in my final few months of my master's is really hard to afford for races that are like now $300, $400. So I'm finding it'll probably be like more like smaller like halves. I've also leaned into that, like shamelessly being like, yeah, I trail run, but I actually don't want to do like huge, massive ultras, like distances competitively. So that being said, probably some local halves over summer, but I really want to do some like self-supported stuff. That's going to be my goal this summer. So I'm looking at St. James, maybe the Heafy, what's the other one on the West Coast that I've been looking at? Oh, that's a great walk. I'm blanking on the name now. The Paparoa. Yeah. So yeah, just self-supported stuff because that's way more accessible financially, and it'll still challenge me. Maybe upload it onto Wild Things, see if I can compete with anybody. You know,
get an FKT
in there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, again, Ryan Montgomery, returning champion to Dirt Church Radio. What was their FKT? It was on the Wonderland Trail, I want to say, or some. They've got some, and it's insane. Like, yeah. Isn't it funny how we quantify? Like you just said, like I'm going to do some half marathons. I'm going to do, but we quantify. We're almost in that thing that races are being identified as sub ultra distance now, when it was always like ultra distances is the thing. And yeah, I mean, you work at Front Runner Colombo with Oscar. He's going to be like, why are you bothering with that slow old person races? You got to be sending it in the sharp stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that's actually rubbed off on me a little bit. It's only me and another person who are really like the trail running quota of the shop. And everyone else is this like really incredible like half marathon distance and track distances. And I think that they have inspired in this to me, like, it doesn't have to be like 100-kilometer race for it to like count as running. like it can be a 5K, and that's okay.
I would rather run 100K than try and do a 5K PB.
Wow, really?
You know, in terms of the amount. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, but this is the thing. If you said to me, I guess I'm not quite. If you said run a 100K PB or run a 5K PB, I'll take my chances with the 5K PB. But I'd still, it would take me probably, I'd say probably 8 months of solid, dedicated training, and many goes at it to get down under my 5K PB, which again is very pedestrian in the grand scheme of things. But that thing of it, isn't it? That distance doesn't equal probity.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Matt, we'll put you in some Fuel Cell Elites and you'll be sending it on your 5K. you'll be smashing the park run.
Not on the roads in Riverhead. Not on the roads in Riverhead. I'll keep to the challenges. Well, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? What's your take on the sort of the evolution of the super shoe?
My take on it, my hot take. Don't hold back. I think the super shoe. Super shoe is really great for racing. I also think you have to be a particular runner and like foot shape and gait and all the other things for the shoe to like, I don't know, just really do well for you. I just seen a lot of just people. I mean, we help them find a better carbon plated shoe. But I think for me, we primarily will sell to just the general public, right? And my hypothesis is that if Strava didn't exist, the super shoe would not be as popular as it is.
Why?
I think people just want to look really fast on Strava. And a super shoe will give you maybe a few seconds off of your average. Yeah, it's not really what they're intended for.
Are they the new like specialized Venge? You know, it'd be like me, you know, I don't know how old I am, 47-year-old dude, you know, very, very average, buying like a $20,000 super bike and going, you know, these
this will take
carbon rims.
Yeah, this will take
200 grams off.
These E-Tech
I could lose 15.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely think
I could lose 15 kilos.
Yeah. I think it is though, Matt. I really do. But I mean, I don't want to also take away business. So you know what? Buy your super shoe and feel awesome about yourself. I mean that seriously. Like if it gets you out the door, then absolutely do it. Right? If a pair of Fuel Cells like Elites are gonna make you feel like you can, I don't know, feel confident enough to enter your local race, then go for it.
Yeah, why can't we have nice things? That's the other part of it. We deserve nice things.
If you can afford it, heck yeah, go for it.
I remember talking to Barefoot Ted and about his sandals, and I said to him, "How do you keep selling sandals? Because you kind of, it's not like it's like you have a spoon, right? And you go like, I sell spoons, people." But he said it's what people attribute the meaning. It's not so much the sandal itself, and they're great sandals. Like I love my Lunas. It's the meaning behind the sandal. It's actually what meaning people attribute to it.
That makes sense, though, right? I'm sure people are it's the meaning of a carbon plated shoe. It's gonna make me feel faster. It's gonna make me feel more competitive. Yeah.
They look pretty cool too, right? Like you can't deny, like some of them are really cool.
Yeah. And you do feel fast.
Good.
It is fun to run in them. I actually don't own a pair, but have I trialed them around the shop and around the streets? Yes, I have, and they are super fun. Yeah.
Amazing. Hey, what's your master's in?
Good question. I'm doing my master's at UC studying counseling. I've worked in the support and advocacy space for a while now, and I think what was important for me at this stage in my life was having a bit more job security through registration, and just being able to make a little bit more of a small but significant impact, offering counseling as a trans person to hopefully other trans and queer people. That's actually what my dissertation's on. I'm looking at experiences of trans people, like clients working with trans counselors, and trying to identify that experience, like eliminate that experience and put words to it. Because there's actually, I couldn't find any research about it. So it could be a first. Maybe I just haven't found the article that's out there yet. Maybe it's in the bowels of some sort of uni library somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Yeah.
You say small impact, and this is the thing, isn't it? You kind of, we judge our work on terms of like, so in terms of that, the mental health space, it's monolithic and it's glacial. And you may not change the system, which, and for anyone working in the health system in Aotearoa at the moment, it's not stressful at all. It's really cool.
Come work here as a doctor or a nurse. It's so much fun.
It's easy. No, and you get to hang out. You get to hang out with cool people and do cool stuff. But like the point is that we light those affirming flames, right? And that's the thing. You could make a difference in someone's life.
Yes.
That is the threshold of literally life and death.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Like and that's the reason I love counseling, right? Is knowing that maybe one conversation or just one thing that we talk about in an hour span could actually be incredibly life-changing for somebody. And you said, like, it actually is, without any melodrama aside, it's actually it can be a matter of life and death for people. And it's a lot of responsibility to carry, but it's also what a privilege and what a beautiful thing to be able to do that day in and day out, even though it's exhausting sometimes, but it's also really invigorating. Yeah.
And so, I mean, is Ōtautahi somewhere that you're down at UC at the moment? You're looking at your masters. Once that's done and dusted, are you sticking? Is this where you kind of home for now? Or?
Yeah. It's home for now. I don't really see too much changing. I was contemplating perhaps moving overseas, just for some fun. But I'm actually thinking now what's important to me is just get more stability, beef up my savings a bit, and just really sink my teeth into, like, I think sometimes when we live in Aotearoa, we just get caught up on like, oh, there's so much of the world to see and there's so many beautiful places to see. But honestly, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I need to just be present and be really thankful for that. So I'm really leaning into that now. I do see myself staying in Ōtautahi. I mean, my Auckland days were fun. But I just feel a real sense of groundedness here, that I just want to keep pursuing and keep feeling. I can't really place my finger on exactly what that is, but I have an incredible group of people all over the country, but I've really built up a little close-knit crew down here, and I just want to spend some more time with them.
Awesome. Yeah. And what distance are you looking at? What distance are you looking at for Crater Rim?
I'm looking at the 30K. I think that's actually be a real sweet spot for me, because Matapu, I placed pretty well, and then my last race that I did was in early May, and that was a half, and I placed well there. So I'm thinking that 30 could actually be a really, really good distance for me. So yeah, I guess let's watch this space. We'll see how I do.
I'm excited. I mean, I will be down at the race. Cool. So yeah. So I'm going to be commentating, and also Rebecca's doing the 50K. So there'll be bit of crewing and all sorts of stuff in that. But
Cool.
and for anyone who doesn't know, if anyone's listening not from Aotearoa, go to Creative Room, check out the vista is incredible. But 30K at Creative Room, 50K at Creative Room is not a normal 30K or 50K,
No.
even from a trail race perspective, right? Like it's, and you think about also like, you know, these are all bridle paths that people like did like a 6-month voyage from the old country and got off, and they're like I'm not saying they had scurvy, but they're in wool clothing, and then they had to carry their stuff up over from Littleton.
Yeah. I think about that quite often
God.
because I live close to Evans Pass, and that was I live right between Evans Pass and Bridle Path, and I think about that. I'm like, oh man, like I'm just complaining running up this, but can you imagine like having like I don't know, a horse and buggy and like carrying up vats of water and bags of food? Oh my gosh, we have it lucky us trail
Horse and
runners.
boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Horse and buggy. I always think that, like, horse and buggy if you're lucky. I also remember, like, I don't know if you ever saw when you were running out in Riverhead, you'd see those dudes doing the pack marches or going for special forces selection. They've got like gas masks on and like their full kit and like a pipe.
Yeah.
So they can't carry a gun, so they got a pipe. And we sort of just jog past them like,
Yeah.
you know, it's pretty, we've got it.
Yeah.
We got nothing to worry about.
I always looked forward to seeing them because it was always when I needed it the most, when I was like 26 kilometers in and I was like, I'm so tired of listening to this same playlist and I'm so thirsty and I just want like a nice cold beer after this, and they went out there for like 4 hours. I'm like, you have nothing to complain about, Lee.
No, it's a nice little bit of perspective. Yeah. Look, Lee, it's been incredible to catch up with you. It's been incredible, going through your story, and so stoked to see you at Creative Rim. But I wanted to finish off with the question that we ask every person who comes on Dirt Church Radio, and that's, Lee Grabarek, what's been your greatest run ever?
See, I thought about this, and I, as a Dirt Church Radio listener, I'm like, something about like saying a race like doesn't sit well with me. I'm like, I don't know, but actually,
it's
my question. I know, I'm judging myself. I have a lot to work through. I think that the most recent really meaningful run for me was Ōtautahi, and I think that for me it was coming off of a really challenging year, and running was a real beacon for me throughout that time, and having Ōtautahi in the future that I was training for was something that I held really closely and I put so much effort into. And the other really cool part about this is over the last couple of years, I've had a lot of really incredible people in the running world, like physios, podiatrists, coaches, just like other runners, right? We have Out Trails. I got the real privilege of also being able to meet Corinne Malcolm. It was super cool. Like I've had like, last year was so hard, but I got to meet so many awesome people that really helped me on my running journey. And it felt like Ōtautahi was a real celebration of all those people. I think sometimes it can get really easy to get caught up in, like, as a runner being like, I'm going out for my runs by myself. This is all me, you know, like I'm putting in the hours, I'm putting in the blood, sweat, and tears. But there's so many people that have helped us to get to these places of being able to do this, whether that's like a family member or, I don't know, colleagues. There's so many people out there trying to help us to accomplish these goals. And Ōtautahi was just a real celebration of that. And I had some of my best friends at the finish line for me who came down to Queenstown, Arrowtown to just like, I don't know, be there at the end and cheer me on. And yeah, it was just a really beautiful, exhausting, but beautiful moment. Definitely one of my greatest runs ever, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Look, Lee, thank you so much.
Thanks,
thank you for what you bring to the community, and it's been cool to talk to you, have a proper catch up. You know, last time it was literally ships in the night.
For coincidence? I think not. You were going,
True. I was going for Wu2K, And that's still suffering, still getting over the effects of the head knock that I took, but worth it, I guess. And also with it to support a race that supports like contemporary viewpoints, inclusivity, and and also takes place on some of the most badass trails
Super
around.
Badass. So, hit me up if you're ever down here. We'll go for a little spin in the hills. Anyone else listening? Let me know. Tour guide.
Take pity on an old man.
No.
Yeah, that's right. We'd love a tour. Okay, look, thanks, Lee, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Matt. See ya.
What I'm always struck with when speaking to people who have a different experience than me as like just a regular old middle class white dude is how we talked about itches that you can't scratch, and how most itches I have I can scratch, and Lee sharing that they had this experience of going to out trails and that being an itch they could finally scratch, being amongst like-minded folks, being amongst folks who resonated, and it was super cool. Thanks, Lee, and the work that you're doing in the counseling space, really valuable, and can't wait to see you at Crater Rim. But that's us for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio, and you can email it at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Don't forget to sign up, as I said, for the new podcast and newsletter. It's not so new now. New podcast and newsletter. And also send us your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear it from you. You can read it on the website and be like James and send it into us, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Thanks to our supporters for the Faster, Currens NZ, and Squadron, and thanks to our Substack subscribers and the DCR Aid Station crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up, and check out our DCR Aid Station next week.
Hei kona. Hei kona.
Thanks, Rigby.
If you want to get the DCR hit that you love ad-free and get it every single Wednesday, there's a way to do that. Sign up to become a member of the DCR Aid Station crew, $8 a month or $80 a year. Paid subscribers get full access to the newsletter featuring recommendations, reviews, and the special sauce. Special sauce is quite cool, isn't it, mate?
Maybe I've been drinking from the special sauce bottle a bit much lately, but really enjoy putting together the content, really love bringing it out to the people, and the people really love it too. So yeah, get involved, support Dirt Church Radio. We've been cracking on for 6 years now, and we really love bringing this to you. So help us help you to help us help you, helping us.
You can find a link on the website, which is www.dirtchurchradio.com.